The issue of homelessness is something that Austin and so many other cities across the country are wrestling with. A coalition of homeless advocates and city leaders have been meeting to try and find a strategy to help the homeless and plans to house 3,000 people in the next 3 years. It's a lofty goal, but can it be done? Joining us now is Lyric Wardlow. She works with organizations that are trying to end homelessness here in Austin. Lyric, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Lyric, is it time for the city, for all of us, to take a different approach to helping the homeless?
Yeah, I think it's been time. I think Austin has really understood how much the experience of homelessness is really important, but I think we've all been on different kind of opinions and different backgrounds on how to help people experiencing homelessness. And so it is definitely time to really address it and figure out how to help people in the best way in the city of Austin. So I think it's definitely time.
And you're actually coming at this from personal experience. You yourself were once homeless.
Yeah, so I've been homeless previously for almost over a decade, but I experienced homelessness here in Austin and lived in the Salvation Army and motels around the city. And so I had firsthand experience with just how complex the barriers are to getting into housing and sustaining that once my mother and I actually received our housing. And so I know what it's like to be on the streets and what it's like to have such a hard time really sustaining housing.
Now, Lyric, you were part of the virtual summit with the city and community advocates that happened in March. Let's talk about some of the priorities you all came up with to successfully help people living on the streets.
Yeah, so when it comes to this new plan, I think we're really trying to focus on what programs are really going to sustain a person into their housing, what is actually going to keep them from re-entering homelessness afterwards. So focusing on programs, not just something that is going to be something like emergency shelter, which is very short term, but focusing on even if we are providing something like emergency shelter or a program, how is it that we're supporting them in that process and offering as many resources to keep them in housing once they do receive that. So the focus of this plan is not just putting a house or a roof over someone's head, but we're really trying to make sure that that roof stays over someone's head and that they are able to re-enter society in the most proactive and comfortable way possible, instead of it being a very complex time when getting into housing.
Now, one of the big parts that came out of this plan was that y'all want to house 3,000 people in 3 years. That sounds like quite a feat. So can you break that plan down for us a little bit?
Yeah, it's a hefty goal, but I think when it comes to the city of Austin, this plan is not just getting the city to be on one page and getting organizations and service providers to say, we are going to house all of these people. This is a community plan where we're actually implementing the monies and the actual services itself to really dig down deep into what the people experiencing homelessness actually need. And it's not going to be one size fits all for each person experiencing homelessness. We're trying to gear services to make sure that when they actually receive this service, that it's something that's going to sustain them in the long run. And so from here into the next coming months, we will be housing people experiencing homelessness. But with that 3,000 person experiencing homelessness goal of getting them into housing in this next 3 years, I think the goal is that we're dividing these numbers to ensure that people can actually get into the housing that they need at the right time, and it's brief and non-reoccurring. That's the goal.
So you'd only do, say, for example, 200 by June, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I think we are trying to implement things in the best way, and I definitely am not the professional when it comes to the data and the numbers, but I think the service providers in the city are going to be digging down into what is going to actually be efficient when it comes to those numbers, how many can you actually house within a month or 2 months and within this goal. But I think the overall is that that 3,000 does happen in 3 years, and that we can accomplish that in the way that really fits towards the city of Austin and the people that we have experiencing homelessness here.
Lyric, Austin's going to hold a special election May 1st to decide whether to reinstate the city's public camping ban, and state lawmakers have even been looking into possibly enacting a statewide ban as well. Let's hear your opinion on how this will or will not help the homeless issue that we're all facing.
Yeah, so as much as I have heard the complaints and the factors in which people feel as though Prop B might be a solution, I think we've already tried that, and we've attempted to make a change for people experiencing homelessness in that way, and it has not been effective. And so something like Prop B, in my opinion, as a person who experienced homelessness, is not going to change this impact of people experiencing homelessness. It's just going to shuffle the people in the streets around the city itself, and it's not actually going to give people the good standing that they need to actually receive housing and stay within that housing. And so something like Prop B, for me, I personally don't think it's going to be effective when actually addressing the people who really need the best services possible. I don't think it's as deeply I don't think it's deeply rooted in really helping the people on the streets, but more of just let's solve a direct issue that we see when passing by on 35 and when passing through downtown.
All right, a huge issue we're all going to keep an eye on. Lyric Wardlow, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.